Are we live?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We'll cut that in post.
You ask us every
Welcome,
week.
everybody, to Dancing Dragons Live, Dancing Dragons Coaching Collective's weekly show where you get to hear real talk from real coaches about real life situations that affect you. My name's Elijah. I'm not really your host tonight. Will's your host, but I'm here also. I would just like you to go to DancingDragons.cc. We're a brand new coaching collective. You can get the perfect coach for you. We have hundreds of coaches that have all different kinds of disciplines. Anything that you're trying to get done in your life, we have the people that can help you get there. So go to DancingDragons.cc. Dancing Dragons Live is our weekly show every Monday at 8:30 Eastern Time, or 8:30-ish. I guess we're 11 minutes late right now, but that's okay. We're in that window. So make sure that you like and you subscribe. Make sure you comment, really push this out, share the video. We have a great conversation tonight about how to get your way without being a Karen, which I think is pretty fantastic. So without further ado, I'll throw it over to our MC, Will.
Yeah, so how do you get what you want without being a Karen? Now, anybody that's been on the internet in the last 15 years know there's Karens, Darrens, and all sorts of different names for people. And the last thing you want to do is go viral for doing something pretty dumb. But at the same time, we all want to get what we want out of life. We want to make the most of our life. And that's why Elijah's first point was going to be, actually, we'll tease that. We'll tease that a little bit. We're going to go through 5 different individual bullet points here. We're going to discuss it with our coaches. And the first one is appearance, right? So we kind of touched upon this before with the halo versus horns effect. And the halo effect is people will psychologically judge you based on what you're wearing and how you act and how you smell. And that also goes into rapport. That's our second one. I'm going to tease that there. But your appearance goes a long way. There was recently a video where there was a young kid. He was 14 years old, and he documented his life every single day for 1 week wearing his regular clothes and then 1 week wearing a suit. And first week he went to try to get on the bus. He didn't have the proper change, didn't have enough money. The bus driver says, "Get the heck out of here." And then he goes to school. People are treating him kind of like he's a thug or whatever. Then he's being followed around a store. Next week, he goes with the suit. He doesn't have the money. The bus driver says, "Oh, you look like you're going to a job interview. Come on, get on." Anyways, right? Then he notices more attention from females. And because of that, he starts feeling better about himself, making healthier decisions. Speaking of healthy decisions, we do have Coach Megan here, who is a health and wellness coach. What tips do you have to say about appearance and just general overall, the first appearance, the first meeting, first impression is so important. Do you have any tips on that, Megan?
It kind of reminds me of the episode that we had about interviews, really just making sure you always look your best, feel your best so that you'll be able to project that image. Even if you're feeling a little shaky inside, you know what you're about, you know what you want to say. And if you're feeling good, it just projects and other people can see that. And like you said, it makes sense how the people treated the suit guy better. Unfortunately, that's just how the world is. But at the same time, we can use that to our advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach Rona, one of the things we talked about earlier was kind of tempering your personality to the room, because you have a pretty bombastic and charismatic personality, which I enjoy. But, there's some people that are kind of, I think you're muted there,
No,
Coach Rona.
I was whispering bombastic.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, what do you think about as far as appearance and that first initial meeting?
Well, I think you need to read the room, first of all. That's sales 101. You have to know your audience. And if you're complaining about something, if you have a request, you can't come in and take over the room thinking that everyone's going to drop what they're doing and listen to you. That's what true Karens and Darrens do. Mm-hmm. Where in order to get that synergy going and get that rapport that you mentioned earlier, you need to see how that person is, perhaps the person you're going to speak with. Are they talking to other people? Do they seem lively? Are they angry about something? What's their mood and engage that. And then you go in with the proper communication skills. Eli had mentioned the it, thou, and you. Was that it, Eli?
It actually
I,
goes it, you, thou. I would just switch them. I know it's a
Okay.
pedantic point, but I always make it.
okay, and I use the you versus I language. I need help with something. I was hoping that that I could get some help with this issue. You look like a smart man. I bet you could help me with this. And you always want to make the other person feel smarter, feel capable, and that's how you build the rapport.
Yeah, and
that's a
just to go back to the appearance thing, right? Like, I think it's super important. And
Sorry, I went
forgive
off.
me.
Did I go off? Sorry.
No, not really, not really. But just I just want you guys to forgive me. I'm going to give you a harsh dose of reality, but appearance matters in life, right? And maybe you don't think it should. And I know we're in a world of body positivity and nobody's ugly and all this stuff. It's just not true, right? And so, we have like a pandemic of people tattooing their face and then wondering why they can't get a job, right? And it's just people care about how you look, right? And sometimes tattooing your face is a great way to get a job. Maybe if you're a tattoo artist, it works out in your favor, right? Or, there might be some people that are more attracted to that, and that audience is growing. I'm a dude with long hair. Trust me. I'm old enough. I know I might not look that old, although that's not really true anymore, but I used to be able to say that. I'm old enough to remember a time when it was extremely taboo for men to have long hair, and I had long hair at that time. And people would always I would go into job interviews and people would be like, will you cut your hair? And I'd be like, no, I'm not going to cut my hair for a job. Right. And they'd be like, well, then you can't work here. It literally happened to me many times. Right. I don't think that conversation happens too often nowadays. But the point is that people care about how you look. And if you want to look a certain way, that's fine, but you're going to have to accept the consequences. And the truth of the matter is that cute people get more things their way than less cute people, right? You can ask my 8-month-old son. He's extremely cute. He gets everything that he wants in life, right? And it's just a fact of life. So if you are in a situation where you're trying to get something, you have to talk to somebody in person, you have to go to an office or something and get some paperwork pushed through that you might not be able, try to look cute first. It's just good advice, okay?
I have an issue with that. Yep. Because, and I know that surprises you, Will, but I don't always agree with Eli. I was in advertising sales for many years, and I'm the first to admit there are always people taller, thinner, younger, prettier, et cetera, et cetera. When I was in advertising in my 20s and 30s, I did pretty well. Let me put it that way. And it was harder for me because people thought, oh, she's cute, she must be stupid. So there's that part of it also.
Yeah, that is an aspect.
That way.
That is an aspect, right? And so again, there's going to be pros and cons to everything, right? And so
one of the things I would say to that is, like, I mean, you could be a really handsome guy or a really attractive female, and a lot of it's going to come down to how you carry yourself and how you're dressing, right? So if I'm a big, strong, burly guy and I go into an interview with a mesh top, they're probably going to think I am dumb. But I fool them because I put this suit jacket over my mesh top and nobody's the wiser, right? So a lot of it is how you have to carry yourself. And one of the other things, too, as far as the appearance is, people remember how you made them feel, right? And so that's kind of teasing the next part, building rapport, but there's certain things that you can do that with your appearance as well, right? So you can wear a suit, but you can have maybe a fun flower, or you can wear a fun color tie, right? And people will see that. And it's also what certain dating coaches will call peacocking, right? Well, if you got a nice hat on or some nice shoes, that's a conversational for people, like, oh, that's a nice briefcase you have. Oh, I like your shoes. And that's one way to build rapport. But before we get to that, Coach Carey, I want you to get a chance to weigh on this.
I'm ready for that rapport. If we can jump in there, I got
All
things
right,
to say on that.
why don't you start us off with the report then?
Sure. So I worked in gym sales, and we required all new people to come in 30 minutes before, because we wanted them to talk to them 30 minutes before the class started, just so we could build rapport. We called it know, like, and trust. So I would sit there and try to get these people to talk about their life, ask them personal questions, and try to get this 30 minutes conversation of them just telling them about their lives, so that afterwards, when class is over and we pitch the sale, they know, like, and trust me. So it's easier. So we just wanted 30 people just so we can get them to build that rapport. And it was so much easier. I remember one time my boss said to me, "It sounded like you were in a therapy session." And yeah, the person just spilled to me, and I got the sale. It's much easier when you befriend them in a way.
Yeah, and what are the 3 steps there? And you and Rona bring that up. One of my mentors, Todd, talks about this all the time. If people know you and like you, they're going to do business with you. If you can kind of elaborate maybe on some of the questions you ask to build that rapport.
Right. So I think trying to think, you come to ask them about themselves, and then you try to find that commonality where you can relate. Oh, me too. And then once you have something in common, then they start to like you. They trust you because they can relate to you. Compliments always help. And a key part to all of this, something you can't fake, is being genuine. So giving a compliment, but it has to be, if you hate the person's shirt, do not say you like it, because that's just not, it's probably not going to land unless you are, I don't want to say a serial killer, but narcissism, and you're able to convey kind of crazy, not the truth, but I'd say be genuine. So don't say something that isn't true just to get them to know, like, and trust you, because it might not work or it might blow up later on. So that would be number one, is just be authentic in this journey.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then to compound upon your point where you're discussing the compliments, I work in retail, and we got to get people talking for those same reasons. Obviously, there's open-ended questions, but if somebody come in, I'll say, "Hey, how's it going today? What can I help you find?" or whatever. Or the better thing to do is, like you said, give a genuine compliment, right?
Mhm.
So when people come in, yesterday there was some dude that was in my store, and he has like these really cool glasses that like dip down into like a lightning bolt V there. And I noticed that about him, right? And so you want to say, "Oh, hey, that's a really cool watch." It's something that's unique about the person. Don't just every girl that comes in, "Oh, I love your handbag. You're so pretty," right? It has to be something genuine. And then conversely too, there was a dude who came in. He was like, "Hey, I didn't see any of these on the floor. Is it possible to get the one that's on display in the window?" And I said, "Maybe, but no, you have a Yankees hat on." So it's okay to playfully tease people as well too. So that's what I would say about that. But yeah, Coach Megan, what's your any tips or tricks on how to build rapport? Because this is one of the most important things, right? Because in sales, they'll tell you when someone's buying something, they're buying you maybe even more than the product. They're buying that experience.
Yeah, they're buying you. You're selling yourself, and you want to be this. I've had various job experiences, and I do echo finding a genuine connection with them, whether it's a compliment or just noticing something that they're presenting to you. Making sure that you're doing it, again, in a genuine and kind way versus trying to make it seem like you're just trying to force conversation with them. And then I lost my train of thought. Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, no, and one of my favorite things to openers for people when I'm just starting to get to know them, and people, you don't want to ask like, "Hey, how's your job?" and then that dude just got fired, or "Hey, how's your girlfriend?" No, she just broke up with me and married my dad, or "Hey, how's your health?" "Oh, well, recently," right? So one of the things I like to say to people is like, "Hey, once I get to know them, so tell me a random fact about you," and that can open it up to whatever is on that person's mind, whatever fun or interesting things that they want to discuss. And it kind of gets the conversation flowing, because that's one of the things when you're building rapport. Everyone asks the same stupid questions. "Oh, so where are you from?" "Oh, Georgia." "Oh, peanuts." What else? Or peaches, whatever, right? It's like, "Oh, great. Yeah. Wow." One of the things I do as a side is, because there's so many people from all over the world that live in the United States and visit the United States all the time, and in different backgrounds. I'm a geography nerd. One of the hats I wear, and I like to learn a couple fun facts. And one of the things that can piss people off is say, "Hey, are you Italian?" "No, I'm Irish." Or one of the worst things one of my friends did was he saw a brown skinned woman and he heard an accent. He's like, "Oh, are you Indian? No, I'm from Pakistan. We're mortal enemies. We're at war right now." So some of the things that people want to pick up on as well too. So it's part of that building rapport, and it goes to your appearances, knowing what you're talking about. If you're doing it from a sales position and what you want to get is the sale, people are more likely to trust somebody that is knowledgeable and uses good resources and references those things. And Elijah, yeah, so go ahead, take it away, Elijah, and then pass it along.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly right. So like it can be pretty dangerous to ask somebody where they're from, right? I remember one time I asked somebody where they were from, and he said, "Do you only ask brown people that?" And I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "I speak Arabic. I thought that you might have been from a Middle Eastern country. My fault." He wasn't, but I think he was from Pakistan actually. But it was funny. It was just so like, but that's how some people will take it, right? So you kind of got to be careful with it a little bit. But here's the thing. I think Will really hit the nail on the head. So if you want to get better at making small talk, expanding your horizons is a big help. But even if you don't know a whole bunch about a whole bunch of stuff, like you're not a geography nerd like Will is, what you can do is limit your questions to things that you actually know about, right? And so you can kind of like play that, like just make sure it's like, if you don't know much about geography and you ask somebody where they're from and you suspect they're from a foreign country, it's not like it's going to be a dead in the water conversation. Like they say, like a country a lot of people haven't heard of or something, like, "Oh, I'm from Eritrea," right? You could be
Eritrea.
Like, oh, I've never heard of Eritrea. Where is that? Where is that? Like, where is that located? And so you can still ask questions like that as long as they're genuine. It doesn't seem like it's forced, right? But making sure that, like, if you're like you're asking about things that you're actually interested in and you're actually knowledgeable about, will really help ease these kinds of small talk conversations. Go ahead, Rona.
In addition to that, what I find works in almost any situation, if you ask them a specific thing or they are on a subject, what's your favorite thing about that? Gets them talking. And when I just love the fact that I can walk, it's great walkability. Really, what is there to see? And you can dig in from what that is, because everyone's favorite subject is themselves, and they will like you better. They don't know why, but they will like you because they're doing all the talking, and you can even say, "What's the worst?" So just get their opinions on things, and they'll usually go on.
And just to go into like another point here, right, where it's like if you like, there's many different ways to like have a conversation with somebody, and probably the most charismatic person I know never talks about the other person. He only talks about himself. It's absolutely wild, right? You see this guy work. First up, I used to do sales with him, door-to-door sales, going into businesses. This guy would just talk about himself and his family rapid fire, and it was just insane. Like, it was something that you would never suspect would work, and it worked like a charm, because he was just like, it was so endearing, and he was completely himself. He wasn't like forcing it, but here's walking. His name's Rob Goulet. I'll give his business a shout out. If you're in the New England area, he does home improvements. You can check him out at RTG Home Improvements, right? Rob Goulet, he has a bunch of videos online where he like does really goofy stuff in the camera, like, "Oh, there you are," and then he shows you how to like tile a floor or something. But yeah, so Rob Goulet, right? So this guy, like Robert Goulet, is a famous singer, right? And so he'd always be like, "Oh, my name's Rob Goulet, like the singer," and he'd start singing one of their songs. He'd be like, "My son's Rob Goulet Jr. My son's going to be in a play this week. My whole family, we sing, we dance, we're always doing plays." And this is literally like how he has conversations. So just like, not shameless self-promotion, but just like being yourself on your sleeves, not holding back, and really showing your personality is going to go a long way into creating a personal relationship, especially if you have such a bombastic personality like Rob Goulet, or Rona, because what happens is that people go like, oh wow, like there's no way this person's faking this. Like this is just genuinely them. And it really makes them feel more connected to you because they know that you're not putting on a facade.
And helps them
Yeah,
feel safe to be themselves too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's and people like Rona and people that are just fun in themselves, people want to have fun. It's not just girls, okay? That was a sexist propaganda back in the 80s. No, guys and trans, we like to have fun too. Everyone likes to have fun, and people love people that have fun, right? And then one of the reasons why Robert Goulet was so effective is because when people open up, right? That when you open up to somebody, the other person feels like they have to kind of open up to you too, right? So if you're saying, hey, my family and all this stuff, the person's not just going to usually sit there and, they're going to reciprocate. So that's a big way to get people to open up. And then one of the other things before we get on to the next bullet point that I wanted to talk about really quickly was if you do want to work on building rapport, you can just Google it. It's like 30 questions that lead to love. And some psychologists and researchers put questions there. One of my favorite ones that I use, some of them I don't really like, but they're pretty good to get conversations going. One of my other favorite questions to ask people, and we'll do it at the end of this program. We'll go around and ask the coaches and the comments. We'll get it from the comments as well too. And if you're just joining, like, share, and subscribe. Dancing Dragons Live. We're here live every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But some of these questions are really cool. My personal favorite was, if you could have dinner with any person, past or present, who would it be and why? But I'm going to add one caveat to that too. I was asking people this question a lot when I would get to know them, and they'd be like, my dead dad or my grandma. And then you have to say, okay, excluding relatives or friends, close people, right? Because you don't want to turn it into a sad thing, But, and that's really cool because, and then you can ask them why. Oh, well, what would you guys have to eat, right? And so 30 questions that lead to love. Not a fan of all of them, but there's some pretty good openers and questions there that allegedly, may possibly lead to love. So what's the next bulletin point? Okay, it's
Well, hold on, but before you jump there, just I want to like kind of tinge something there, right? And I don't want to call out Will for toxic positivity there, but I'm calling out Will for toxic positivity. No, all right. So what I would say is that be genuine to yourself. If you are a person who's like melancholy as a personality, it actually might make sense to talk to the people about sad stuff, right? If that's where you live. Now, some people will not be receptive to it. But again, you're going to get you're going to get better results being genuine to yourself, because it's like you might not be for everybody, but if you're not being yourself, you're going to miss out the people that are for you, right? So be yourself. Now, me, I'm very contemplative. So when I come in contact with random strangers, I'm not like a ball of energy, like, I mean, I can be like that sometimes if I'm in a mood, right? But like I say things, I try to get people to think deeply, like whenever I'm interacting with them, like even at like cashiers or whatever, like I do this all the time. And that's because that's my personality. I'm very contemplative, right? So and some people probably couldn't pull that off, right? Just like I can't pull off like all smiles all the time, right? So I would just say, like, be genuine to yourself. Don't feel like you need to be like other people, because other people are already taken. There's only one you. Be you.
That's true. All right. So Elijah, what's this next point? Can you elaborate for the comments? I'm going to butcher it. I versus thou versus you versus it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me clarify this real quick. We did talk about it in a previous episode of Dancing Dragons Live, but for all the losers out there who haven't seen every single episode of Dancing Dragons Live, let me break this down for you. So this is kind of like a communication like model kind of paradigm thing, and the idea is that it's whenever you're talking to somebody, it's on a spectrum, right? And you can imagine that the spectrum being two extremes. On one extreme, you have it communication, and on the end of the spectrum, the opposite of it communication would be thou communication. Now, me personally, and then in the middle would be you communication. I personally would switch the you and thou, but again, that's a side thing. That's just, I think, more close to reality, because what those mean is that it communication is you're not even acknowledging the humanity of the person that you're speaking to. And this happens a lot when you're talking to cashiers or something. And now you might think, oh, I know my cashier is a human being. I respect them wholly. It's like, okay, calm down. What I'm saying is that, and everybody does this, it's like communication. A good example of that is if a cashier has ever been like, or somebody at Subway or McDonald's or something ever said like, enjoy your meal. And you said, you too. That means that you weren't even listening to what they were saying, right? And I think that we've all had that situation happen where somebody said something like that, and then you said the wrong thing because you expected them to say something else, but you weren't listening to them. That's because you were in communication mode. It was transactional, right? You were thinking about something else, you know. I'm not saying that you don't appreciate the humanity of cashiers. I'm just saying that during that moment of communication, you weren't acknowledging that you were talking to another person, right? So, and then thou communication on the other side of that spectrum is that it's extremely personal. In fact, I would make the argument that it's just completely open, no bar, nothing held back. I would make the argument that almost nobody has perfect thou communication with anybody in their life, right? That's how intimate thou communication could be, right? Just completely intimate.
How would you describe thou communication?
Thou communication is like lovers in bed having a heart to heart, right? That's as intimate, like you're wide open, like you guys are crying. That's like the most thou you can get, right? And then you communication is kind of where we always live. Like for most of our communication is somewhere in the middle between not recognizing the other person's humanity and having this like spiritual connection, right? We're usually somewhere in the middle, right? And so this kind of goes with creating a personal relationship. But here's the thing, right? So if you're trying to get what you want, right? And this is the problem Karens have. This is exactly the problem that Karens have, is they are in communication. That's why they're like, can I speak to the manager? Right? Like, because it's like, I don't care about you, right? Like, I just want what I want, right? And this is the problem, right? And that's how the person feels. And that's why everybody hates Karens, right? And not if your name is Karen, and you know what we're talking about. So what happens is that, what you want to do is if you're in communication with somebody, you're never going to get what you want unless you want like the standard transactional situation. Like if you're at Subway and you want a sandwich, you can get a sandwich through communication. But if you want the person to cut it in like 5 pieces and triangles or whatever, you might not get that because, you know, you're still in communication. They're going to be like, all right, whatever. And they'll just cut it however and just hand it to you, wrap it up like, because you're just some customer. So what you want to do is you want to drag your communication out of communication with the person that you're dealing with and bring it closer, as close to thou as possible. And how you do that is creating a personal relationship, right? And so that's why I think it's important that these two concepts are kind of tied together, right? So you can do that by not being standard, you know, talking to somebody. Like when somebody asks, like if I really want to turn a situation from it to thou, I like to like contemplatively answer the question, how are you doing? Like people will be like, oh, how are you doing? And I'll be like, you know, I've had better days. I might say like an anecdote from the day, or, you know, like I actually think and I truly answer them. I literally give them a real answer, and I'll think about it for like 5 seconds. I'm like, I'll look up, I'll do the whole thing. Another thing that I'll do, which is kind of like a rubber stamp, and this is like a pearl of mine. So I'm giving it out to you, right? I use song lyrics, and maybe Rona will remember the song. It's called "Life's Been Good to Me So Far." It's by a very famous guy.
Oh, Joe Walsh.
By Joe Walsh, right? So I actually use his song lyrics to do this, right? So I say life's been good to me so far. I don't say that. I say I can't complain, but sometimes I still do. And then I say life's been good to me so far, right? And so when you say it like that, like I was like, I can't complain, but sometimes I still do. And then like people, it just totally takes people out of it mode. And they're like, oh, wow, yeah, I guess I'm like that too, you know? And then I go, life's been good to me so far, you know? And I'm literally just saying song lyrics, but it pulls people out of it mode immediately. It's fantastic. So that's a pearl I'm casting out into the swines of YouTube and Facebook. So don't choke on it, guys. Use that. It works well.
So, and one of the things that is so cool about that is it helps people remember you, right? So a lot of people, it could be the guy at the gas station or a store that you frequent or anywhere too. Like I won't tell you exactly the reason why. We won't get into that, but I frequent convenience stores a lot, not just for gas, right? And so I'll be in there a lot. And when they ask me, that's going to be a big mystery in the comments, but they
comment why you think Will might frequent convenience stores.
It's my Tinder dates. No, that's where I take them. No, so seriously, but people, I kind of playing off that. I do the same thing when people ask me how you doing. It can be anywhere. It depends how I feel, but I have a couple answers that I'll give either way. Sometimes I'll be like, if it's a store, they'll be like, oh, how are you today? I'll be like, well, half the world lives off less than $2 a day, and my coffee is more than that. So suck it, Antarctica, right? You guys aren't living off crap, right? And puts things in perspective. Now, obviously, you don't want to take that too far, as I personally did, and started negating my own personal traumas and things that were happening, right? But you know, it's a good way to look at things. And like Elijah said, it's going to tell them something you didn't know. Or sometimes, like, when people are like, oh, how are you today? I'd be like, you know, genocide in Yemen's got me down. Justin Bieber's still alive. And on a side note, I would like to publicly apologize to Justin Bieber. I thought he was just a untalented loser, but now I realize he went through a lot of stuff, which we will not be discussing on this stream. So I'm sorry, Justin Bieber. I actually feel terrible pity to you. But and just to play on that too, like, one of the things that you can do is just have a couple dumb jokes, right, lined up, right? And you can consult this book right here, the Bible of dad jokes, right? And because people are going to remember that, right? And so the next time you come into that store, maybe you forgot your card, or maybe you're a couple dollars short or something like that, people are going to want to help you out. And then if you want to ask them, say, oh, maybe they have something for sale, that's a car, or maybe they can help you. I mean, I started a business with a dude I met at a gas station one time. So you never know what you can do. And that's the thing. You never know who you're going to run into as well, too.
And hold on a second, just to go back to Justin Bieber, Love Yourself is a great song. I don't care for his other music, but Love Yourself is fantastic.
And then one other point just on this topic, and we can move to the next one unless anybody wants to jump in on this too. But the I thou thing, immediately I was thinking of we and you, right? So one of the things that they try to tell you to do in public speaking and winning people over in sales, or if you're on the other end of the side of the fence, which Elijah is going to speak about, and then Carrie, I hopefully will speak about it too, because she's seeing both sides of the perspective on this. But the best word, the word that people love the most to hear is their own name. And that's, I believe, in how to win friends and influence people, right? So just by using somebody's name, you don't want to just like look right down and be like, thanks a lot, Malcolm, right? But, you know, throw in their name, right? And that shows that you're paying attention too. And then, like, if you come across a difficult situation, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's somebody at work, maybe it's somebody you don't even know, you're trying to get something done. Well, what can we do about this, right? And even just on YouTube, right? Like, when I'm trying to get my subscribers to do stuff, right? I'd be like, all right, well, we really want to help. We really want to help this person raise money on GoFundMe. You have to take it about the I out of it, right? And then try to use that person's name. But Carrie, can you talk about, from your experience, a little bit about maybe what people get right and get wrong, and how people can use that?
So so I'm in customer support. So I'm a consumer, but also on the other end where people come to me for help. And, I always try to be super helpful, above and beyond, but I'm human. And if someone's a little rude or if someone's a little sarcastic, maybe I'll just go above and maybe not beyond. So I definitely, when people use your names, or when people, I like when people are humble, when they say, oh, maybe it's me, or maybe I made a mistake, and I just want to make them feel good and assure them, oh, no worries, oh, I can help you. When they're coming and they're saying something's wrong with your website, something's wrong with you, you're the problem, then that kind of puts the person on the defense rather than in problem solving and connecting mode. So just what I kind of think of, because I'm on the other end, when I am a customer, I think of how would the agent feel? So I think of, this is a little basic, but the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. If I'm nicer than or if I'm just compassionate, then they're going to want to help me more. If I'm being rude, if I'm being demanding, I wouldn't want to help that person. So just connecting with them on a human level. I'm gonna give an example. When I worked at the gym, someone came in, a member, and she forgot her gym clothes. And if that was me, I was relating to her, I'd hate that. My workout was my favorite part of the day. I get to the gym after a long day and you forget your work pants, and don't get your endorphins. You don't get it was kickboxing, which is really important for people. You don't get that release. So I said, I hope this isn't weird, but I have leggings that I wore this morning. I didn't sweat in. Do you want to use them? And she was super thankful, and I did that just because I genuinely, in her situation, I would want someone to do that for me. So just having that, putting yourself in other people's shoes, whether it's they're helping you. Maybe they've had a long day. Maybe you're the 10th person they've talked to all day. Just humanize them. Think about where they're coming from, their perspective.
Yeah, and I used to work in phone sales too and customer service, and a lot of times when people be rude like that, I mean, you're nice because you just you would go above, but maybe not beyond. I'd be like, oh, certainly, let me just put you on a brief hold, and then give them the D-Generation X salute, and just try to give them the runaround. But going to our next topic is don't take no for an answer. Now, obviously, there's some big caveats for that, right? There are some situations where you have to take no for an answer, okay? We're not going to get into naming those, but one of the ways that you can do that, Coach Megan, is kind of being, you don't want to be too passive aggressive, but you also want to be assertive, and you don't want to be dominating. So how should people navigate that? What's the best way to do that, Coach Megan?
I think being aware of what you really want to be expressed, what you want to express without sounding too difficult, but making sure that you're still coming off the way that someone would want to help you. Like really putting in mind, like being assertive, saying how you feel, and remembering that the other person would want to be done the same for them. So just making sure that you're in that mindset and flipping it around like the golden rule, like making sure that if someone were to come to you with that, making sure you're being kind about it, making sure you're asserting yourself, and making sure that you're saying it about you versus yelling at them or using you statements and everything like that, making sure that to be kind and clear.
Yeah, and it's a thin line, right, between being assertive and domineering, because I think you should always be pretty much assertive, but you can also be polite at the same time by doing that. And and like you said, when Carrie reaches out, when people reach out to Carrie for help, people are like, all right, look, if I called up Carrie and I was like, hey, look, I got this problem, whatever, can you help me navigate this? Whatever, that's going to be a lot better than being even just assertive, right, at certain times. But there are certain points where it's like, all right, you have to be assertive, right? Because you get hung up on by Carrie, and then maybe there's somebody else, and somebody else is giving you the runaround. Coach Rona, what would you say about that?
Well, I agree with you. If you're doing it by phone, there are times when you can hang up if the customer service person is being a little grumbly or unhelpful. Sometimes you can hang up and call again, and then you will get someone else who is more willing to help you. And as you guys were speaking, I I remembered a quote by Marie Forleo, who is a well-known business coach, and she has like a whole school and stuff. And she said, everything is figure outable. And this is something I use a version of this when I am talking to somebody not getting what I want. You know what? Let's work on this together. I know we can figure it out because everything's figure outable. So you can't help me with this. Your boss is out of town, and so how else can we do this? What do you think? And so we're in this together, sort of thing, and that works for me more often than not. And if it doesn't, I will either call back or go to if I can go to a branch store. It's harder for people to walk away when you're in person. I know a lot of people are into texting and doing things with technology, and the human element always wins. If you are face to face, it's much harder. And a lot of people are afraid, and I don't like it's not necessarily confrontation, because that tends to be negative. I don't know why my camera is going back and forth, but it's like,
I'm loving it. It's kind of like The Office. Next time it zooms in, you should give us like one of the Jim faces from The Office, like,
Yeah.
you know, just when Elijah said something awkward. It's pretty awesome. But
Yeah,
I
I thought that you had programmed it to do that.
I don't know why it does. Alex's does that sometimes too. For those of you who haven't watched, Alex is our fearless leader and CEO. Anyway, so I prefer to talk to people face to face, and it does bring in, as we were talking about at the beginning, you can have more rapport. You can be charismatic and funny and fun and bring them in so that they want to help you.
Yeah, actually, I love the advice. I love the advice of just hanging up and talking to somebody else. It works so well. Like on the phone, if somebody's giving you a hard time, I mean, you can try to push through a little bit, but honestly, it probably just makes more sense. And I know that there are some government agencies you'll literally be on the phone for 4.5 hours, so it's really not an option, right? But and I love, and the thing that always drives me crazy is how it says like we are experiencing higher than normal call volume every time you call them. It's like, you don't understand what higher than normal means. This is just normal. Like, I don't know what you are talking about. You can't always be experiencing higher than normal call volume. It doesn't make sense. Look up words in the dictionary, please. But yeah, a lot of times, just like if you're having trouble, just hang up and talk to somebody else. Now, I got a pretty cool story about this one, right? And it's just about being persistent. And again, part of that is working your law of averages, because like the more people you talk to, the more likely it is you're going to find somebody willing to help you out, right? But so I was supposed to go to Mexico with a group of people, right? And I had found out about this trip. I got invited to this trip at a last minute thing, right? And so I had to expedite my passport. And so I pay like the $450 to expedite my passport. And the plane that we were supposed to be flying to Acapulco in was leaving from Miami, right? And I live in the Northeast. So I was going to drive down to Miami and then fly out of Miami, right? So I had the passport get expedited, and I told them, send the passport to the Miami passport office. This makes sense. In fact, they literally, when you're doing this, they ask you where your flight's flying out of. So they knew I was flying out of Miami, right? They literally had my itinerary. It was necessary paperwork to get it expedited. So I go down to the Miami passport office the day before my flight is supposed to be to leave. And I go up to the counter. I was like one of the first people there. I go up to the counter and the person says, sorry, they sent your passport to Chicago. Right. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but I told you guys. And I had like screenshots and everything. I was like, look, the paperwork says Miami. Like, I was like, I told you guys. And the guy's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. Like, it's in Chicago. You have to go to Chicago, get your passport, and then you can come back. And I was like, just so you know, my plane leaves in like 16 hours. I like don't think I have a physically enough time or enough money to do this, right? Like, I don't know. And so, the guy's just like, I'm arguing with the guy a little bit. He won't help me. He's like, there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry. Next person in line. So I get out of line and I take another number and I sit down and I wait. The number gets called. I go up in line. I explain the situation to the next person. I tussle with them for a little bit, trying to get them to help me out. I'm like, look, can't you just like tell Chicago to destroy that passport and print out another one here? Right. And they're like, no, like, we can't do that. It's totally against the law. I can't do it. Sorry. I cannot help you. So I get out of line. I take another number. I sit down. 4 times I did this, right? 4 times I did this. The 5th person I go up to see, I start to explain the situation. The guy just looks at me and goes, I know who you are. I know why you're here. I'm going to help you. And I was like, oh, thank God. And that's exactly what they did. They just printed out a new passport, and it took like 10 minutes. Like, it wasn't even a long time. Like, they were just like, yeah, just print it up. Just hit the print button. That's all you got to do. But yeah, so if you're just persistent and you work that law of averages, eventually you'll find somebody that can help you out.
Yeah, and the law of averages. Well, yeah, and the thing is, the law of averages is very effective on a number of things too. Like, hey, you wanna get a good job, put out 10,000 resumes, right? You wanna get a girl's phone number, right? You're gonna, trust me, I know. I've talked to 12,000 now, and I've gotten 4 numbers. Now, granted, 3 of them are members of my family, but you play the law of averages enough, and you're right. You have to have that persistence, and I mean, think about how many people try to, famous billionaires that we know nowadays try to. I mean, I'm no fan of. I'm not even going to start naming these billionaires, but a lot of times you'll hear the stories where, hey, they went around shopping their ideas and their businesses and all this stuff, and it was like, hey, get out of here, loser. Hey, you got a stupid hairline and all this other stuff, but they kept that persistence and kept up with the law of averages. So I think that's something super important and that cannot be underestimated, because one of the big things about that is people get discouraged when they get shot down, and you have to just realize you're going to get shot down when it comes to everything. There's not and you just got to, grin and bear it and get ready for the next one.
And that's the thing. Grin and bear it is the phrase. Grin and bear it is the phrase. Because if I had lost my cool at that passport office, nobody would have been willing to help me. If I start screaming at people and calling them and totally went full Karen, I was never going to get any help that day, right? Because that guy that ended up helping me would have been like, what a jerk. I hope he misses his flight, right? Yeah. So don't go full Karen. Never go full Karen. Unless your name is Karen, then work really hard to change like what's going on in pop culture. Yeah, change your name. You can go to a government office. You might have to get in line 5 times. You'll be able to do it.
Or you could just do it yourself, like another person, which I won't name. But yeah, what else you guys got on not taking no for an answer? And like I said, there are certain exceptions. Sometimes you're going to have to take no for an answer. But do you guys have any other caveats on that before we move to the next topic?
Well, yes, you have to actually be right, because Eli was right. He had the screenshots. It was not his mistake. You have to have that going for you. If you're wrong, if it's your mistake, if it's your mess up, you can't blame other people and expect them to help you. Maybe you could try to be super nice, but just know the numbers, odds are not on your side there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so to just tie this to our next point, right? Right. So you gotta be able to empower the decision maker too. So in a lot of these things, right? What happens is that the person that you want to help you doesn't feel like they can help you or that they're allowed to help you. I don't know that guy's background that helped me at the passport office, but I bet you he was one of the more senior people there. Like, he knew the ins and outs, and he was sure of himself that he could do it without getting in trouble. The people, like the 4 people I talked before him, were probably newer and felt like, or just like a little bit more timid and felt like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'll get in trouble. It's against the law. They'll arrest me or something like that. And so you can tip the scales in your favor by empowering the person that you want to help you So you help them feel like they're able to do it, right? And we used to do this in sales. We used to say empower the DM. DM is short for decision maker, right? And so you're trying to make a sale. Some people feel like they're not the person that's authorized to buy, and you have to make them feel like they're the one that's authorized to buy, right? And so a good way to do this is to ask open questions, like make sure that you understand the situation fully, right? And then use empowering language to describe the person. So you'd be like, oh, so you're in charge of this. You're in charge of this, right? And then like you can even ask questions. It's like, does the other, like, so like, let's say you're trying to get somebody to make you a passport, whatever, right? So just to use that as an example, I could have been, and again, I didn't use this at the time, but I could have said something like, okay, so you're in charge of issuing passports, right? And then they might say, well, not really me, the person who like runs this pass. I'll be like, okay, do they ever deal with like people picking up their passport like me? I'd be like, no. I'd be like, oh, okay. So you're the interface, like you're the person that actually interfaces with me, right? And so now you're building up this situation where they feel like, okay, this is my job to take care of this, right? The other person never talks to these people, so why would they talk to them now? And that's a big mistake that Karens make, right? Karens say, I want to talk to the manager, right? They totally like take away the power of the person that they're talking to immediately. As if you say, I want to talk to the manager, you're saying you're not important, right? The opposite is how you get to where you're going. You tell the person you are important. You are in charge. You can do this. And it's a fantastic way to get what you want.
Yeah, and one of the other things I would say too that's super helpful. I would say a couple other things. One is have you ask the person, oh, we're really not supposed to. Oh, can I get in this club? Or oh, can you print me my passport? Or no, we can't do it. And then you ask them, have you ever made an exception? And then most people have made an exception, and it gets them thinking back. And by that time, you've already have the appearance, you built up the rapport with that person, and then it's more than likely that you might have a shot at that. And then the other thing is too is please, thank you, go a long way. And one of the examples, and I thank you to Rona for reminding me, is they did an experiment at Pink's Hot Dogs, which is a super popular glizzy spot out in LA. And they always got crazy long lines, and they were trying to get certain people to cut in line. And so they first would be like, hey, can I get your spot? And the success rate was very low. But then they were like, hey, could I please have your spot? And it went up. Thank you. And then giving a reason, being vulnerable. And Facebook also found this too. They'd be like, would you like to fill out a brief survey? And nobody did it. But then they said, would you please help us by filling out this brief survey? Thank you. And the numbers went up. I think it was like 23 to 33%. I forget the exact numbers. Go ahead, Rona. Yeah.
I have a story that's just like that. Recently, I came back from doing a keynote in Chicago, and I was out a little bit early, so I was able to catch an earlier flight, except the line to go through and check everybody, check everyone's stuff was ridiculously long, and I never would have made my flight. So I was in line, how it snakes back and forth. So I was very polite, and I went up to the person who was right there as opposed to, going all around. I said, excuse me, this is my ticket. If I don't get through, I'm going to miss my flight. Can I trouble you to go ahead of you? And they're like, you know what? I understand. Go right ahead. So I cut, and then of course my plane was delayed 20 minutes, but they didn't know that. And it works. If you're vulnerable, can you please help me? They were very nice, and I was able to, I saved like a half an hour. It was crazy. So yeah, it works.
Yeah. And, this episode could have been way shorter. I actually thought that, we kick it off and then Eli'd say, well, the best thing to get what you want, because without being a Karen, is hiring Will as your personal life coach. And we could have kind of just ended it right there. But Elijah was kind enough to drop not only his luxurious locks, which he had up in an eloquent man bun before the show, but also that pearl. He did. I saw it. And he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. It's absolutely, these are all facts. But I would
Don't
be
put it
remiss
back.
if I didn't leave you guys with a little tease about the law of attraction. So I'm going to go rant mode for a minute and a half here. Everything in the universe allegedly is vibratory in nature. Everything is a wavelength: radio, television, internet waves, Wi-Fi, all the stuff that we can't see. They're out there. They're waves. Every thought that you think, scientists put suction cups on your head. It emits a frequency. And you guys are all familiar with the placebo effect. A lot of times someone could have a disease or a problem or something like that, ailment, and they'll give them a sugar pill, and those people consistently over decades heal themselves just as good, and sometimes, most times, usually better than the people that think that they're getting this dope remedy. And I can see me and Elijah will
That's not
probably
medical advice. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, that's absolutely not medical advice. Yeah, we don't give any medical or legal advice here.
Also, may not be accurate. Go ahead.
If you want
It's
some
on the
advice on
internet. It must be true.
if you wanted some advice on some crypto stonks, just kidding, we don't do that either. But so, and the law of attraction is a very powerful thing. People like Buddha, Ralph Waldo Emerson, some of the most famous and important people of all time. And look, I'm not necessarily a fan. I'm actually, for the record, not a fan of Oprah, Will Smith, or Conor McGregor. But all those people say the reason that they are successful is because they use the law of attraction. Now, obviously, it's a lot to go into. We're going to be covering that on a future episode. You're going to see me and Elijah debating the heck out of each other on that one.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. But and although me and Elijah may not necessarily agree on everything there is definitely some overlaps with the principles that we can agree on. So that's I think the best way to get what you want, right? And starts with envisioning something, and more importantly, thinking about it, but even more importantly, believing it. And so let's say, I'll just give you a couple examples and we'll pass it around and we'll say our goodbyes here. But and any final thoughts from our coaches here. But let's say you want to have a crazy successful business. Don't imagine yourself working your way up. Imagine yourself celebrating that business. Same thing. If there's a really hot girl and you want to date her, don't imagine. Imagine when she's like, you guys are like just hanging out after the fact that you guys already dated. You have to put yourself in that mode, but most importantly, feeling that. So we're gonna get into the law of attraction on another one because there's unfortunately not enough time for this tonight. But I will leave you with that. And if you want to know more, you can find us at DancingDragons.cc, DancingDragons.cc. You can look at all of the coaches and all the information that we have there. Find us on our links there as well to all our socials. You can get all of our socials. So we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, TikTok, we're on all the socials. Give us a follow there. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel as well, too. Check out some of our previous episodes. Honestly, I've been doing YouTube and I've interviewed a lot of really smart and cool people, but some of the episodes that we've done here are amongst my favorite content I've ever been a part of on YouTube. I've been doing this for like 15 years, and it's some really helpful and insightful things. And that's just me talking. Just kidding. That's all I'm learning from all these coaches here. So this is a really powerful program, and I want to say thanks to Alex for putting this collective together because, I say it every week, and I'm going to end my little speech on this. If your tummy hurts, you're going to the doctor, you get in legal troubles, you're going to the lawyer. Maybe not me. I might fight the system myself. You get my point. But at the end of the day, you got one life and you want to make the best of it. Maybe you want to be successful in business. We have fantastic business coaches. Maybe you want to be successful in dating. Maybe you've already mastered those things and now you're on to health or wellness. Whatever it is that you want to do, we have coaches that you wouldn't even believe. I mean, it's the spectrum is super wide. So I want to pass it along here to any final thoughts. And also thank you guys for joining and allow me to be a part of this every week because this is super fun and I'm looking forward to next week as well.
All right, I'll start us off with the final comments, I guess. So what I would say, guys, just to like recap this a little bit, right? I would just say if we're going to put a capstone on this whole thing, you are powerful. You are able to mold the outcomes, right? And I may not agree with the secret. And by the way, I think that most of what he said for the steps of the secret is generally good advice, right? Because those things are going to lead to real world practical reasons why people help you. If you're envisioning that your business is successful, you're going to hold yourself like a successful businessman, And then people are going to be attracted to that, and they're going to think of you that way, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be some sort of like magical, like karma thingy in the air, right? It can just be normal psychology, right? So what I would say is that think of yourself, you are powerful. If you feel like you're in a situation where you're not getting what you need, you're not getting what you want, you feel like you can't do it, look at these steps. Make sure that you're looking your best. Make sure that you're acting your best. Again, if you're being a jerk to people, if you're being a Karen, they're not going to want to help you, right? So do not burn your bridges, right? Create a personal relationship with these people. Make sure you get them out of that type of communication. You know, really show your personality. Drag the conversation into you towards thou. Really try to get that person to think of this as like not just a rubber stamp transaction, but actually a situation where they're intermingling with another human being and intertwining and helping them out, right? State your case, like the whole pinkies thing. And by the way, I don't think Will explained it. Glizzy, I think, is slang for a hot dog. So I don't know how many people know that. So, but yeah, like if you give somebody a reason, if you are vulnerable and you open up, what it does is it takes them out of that it conversation. It brings them into the you, right? And that's exactly what's going on. And that is essential, right, to creating a personal relationship. In sales world, we call that CPR, creating a personal relationship. Or I think Carrie said, sorry, I missed it. It was KLT. Know, like, trust. That's it, right? Awesome. Yeah. Know, like, trust, right? I like CPR better, but yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? So you get them to know you, you get them to like you, and then you get them to trust you, right? And so after the creating a personal relationship, thou, what was it?
Yep. So you got.
Don't take no for an answer. Be persistent, and then empower the DM. Make sure that the person, the decision maker, the person that you want to help you feels like they're in a position to help you. And you can do that by like kind of like blowing smoke up their butt, saying like you're in charge, you know, that kind of stuff goes a long way, right? So that's what I would just say is that you can, these are all things that you can do that will help your chances. So if you are in a situation where you feel powerless, remember you are powerful.
All right. Carrie, you want to go since he was talking about your thing?
Yeah, so I think tied it up perfectly with those steps. And I would just underline every one of those: being persistent, being compassionate, being not taking no for an answer, and then underline with being genuine. So try to, whichever angle you come out with these things, make sure it's authentic to you and you believe everything you're saying. You're being yourself, right? Because Eli said everyone else is taken. So make these steps your own. I'll pass it back to you, Rona.
Okay. So I work with purposeful and attuned play, which is based in positive psychology, positive intelligence. So it's flipping mindsets. It's not toxic positivity. Feel your feels, get mad, get upset, get frustrated, and then breathe, do the purr, pause, understand, reflect, and respond, and do it in such a way that it brings positivity to the moment. Like I said earlier, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And my camera just is going. I'm making the point, so it's going right in there.
Keep going, Rona. You can do it.
So yeah, so my point is, if you can go in with an un-Karen attitude, don't expect the worst. Go in with that childlike sense of adventure. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's go in and ask and see. Maybe it'll be great. As opposed to, this is going to suck and they're going to blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And then you have set yourself up for a bad conversation.
Okay.
Megan, passing it over to you.
We all made some good points throughout this episode, and just remembering to be kind, to be genuine, to be you, to remember the golden rule, everything. I think we all had some fun stories for each point. So again, I'm happy to be here to reiterate those.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'll leave you guys with one more thing. This is my favorite line. I always say one more thing, and then on my live streams, I go talking for like 40 minutes afterward. But one of the things, because I brought up my buddy Todd, who's a mentor of mine earlier, one of the things he taught me is the platinum rule. Not to crap on you guys with the golden rule, but I didn't know it. And the platinum rule is to treat others the way they want to be treated. And the first time I went to this dude's house, he had this is back before I was vegan, so don't everyone throw rocks at me. But he had three of my favorite kinds of pizzas, and he knows I love Guinness beer, and that's not his favorite beer, but he had Guinness ready and a glass and all that stuff. So and a lot of that comes from that building rapport, asking open-ended questions, and all the things that we talked about today. So yeah, this is it for tonight, but we were going to be back live next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, go check us out at DancingDragons.cc, and also check us out on our previous episodes. We have some killer episodes: how to ace an interview, psychological life hacks, and we've interviewed U.S. diplomat, lawyer, and author J. Michael Springman, and that one got spicy. Alex was like, you know what? Boo! Spice that thing up. We were going to be PC, but no, that was spicy. So go check us out. We've got a lot of interesting stuff, and stay tuned for more stuff in the future by going to DancingDragons.cc and following us on our social media pages. And until next time, see you guys later next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Remember to be excellent to each other, everybody. Peace out.
Ciao.